use some of the best practice. I'm going to pass it to Dr. Tracy Zhou, my colleague, and she's going to facilitate the next session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Cecilia. And thank you very much to our students and Professor Holliday for these very exciting conversations. I've learned a lot of insights. Now we need to turn to our Hong Kong U teachers who will share us their teaching practices in online learning context. My name is Tracy Zhou. I'm the facilitator of this particular session.
My name is Gavin Coates. I'm a senior lecturer in the division of in the division of landscape architecture in the Faculty of Architecture. And as such, I teach mainly courses to do with planting design and landscape technology, which is mostly to do with topography, drainage, contouring, all of this thing. Now, these issues, obviously the landscape is outside and the planting is outside, the topography is outside. So these courses have a very heavy field trip component. And so just to give you a quick picture of how that looked before COVID, we would go out and, of course, I'm showing the students various different plants, telling them the backgrounds, the stories behind how the plants have developed and what have you. We've been, for the last few years, using like a walkie-talkie system so that I can speak into a microphone and everybody can hear within the group, even if they're 100 feet away, they can hear. But you can still see the situation where people at the back, especially if I'm talking about a detail of something, are not able to see that all at the same time. But still, going out and getting out into the landscape, I think is a very important part of the course. So when in February, we really couldn't go out at all, and I actually started to do the field trips myself and video them. So I video recorded and then posted videos onto Facebook workplace sites, and and this has a couple of advantages. One is that I mean, you can go anywhere and just video. You know, you don't need to have any online reception in order to do that. You can get really close up to the details, or you can just show whatever you want. I used this system also for demonstrations for drawing techniques and other techniques for the assignments. So I would actually go through, physically do it, and get a teaching assistant to film me doing this, and I can explain the process. I also videoed quite a few, several interviews with various people involved in various landscape-related activities, in this case, environmental education. And so the advantages of this, it echoes actually quite a lot of the things that in Halliday and the students were just talking about. But the videos, and I'm not talking about live streamed at the moment, these are just videos that I would take and then later post onto Facebook Workplace. But they already give these advantages, which is a clear audio, clear visual accessibility. It's easy for the students to post queries, including pictures, right? So in the comments below each post, they can post something and say, well, what's this tree? What, you know, and then I can answer. It's retrievable. So the site becomes itself a resource, a reference resource that the students can use for as long as they are members of the platform. And the video collections also for, you know, have potential use. We haven't really explored this much yet, but you know, they have probable functions for analysis in future courses where people can look back at previous Facebook Workplace sites and analyze how effective they were. It's searchable, so you can type in a particular species or a location or keyword and find out all of the posts that are relevant to that. It's something. It's also, I'm developing now. I'm starting to develop this as a platform where the students provide the content. Last term, I provided the content. I will, in future, we'll be exploring this some more, where the students provide the content. For me, the advantages are that I can record anything interesting. It doesn't just have to be in lecture time. I can record anything I see at any time. I can vet what I'm saying before I post it. And I can see who's watching the videos. I can see who is actually clicking in or liking. I can use all of the information. I mean, last term I took 370 videos. I'm giving access to this term's cohort of students so that they can see, for example, seasonal change in plants. They can go back to February or March video and see what that plant was doing in the spring, which is quite different from now in many cases. And it's easy to share. Then we've moved on in my Common Core course, moved on to live streaming. For my Common Core course in the summer, we started off face-to-face, a mixture of face-to-face and online. But we had a total of 180 students, so it's absolutely impossible to do the site walk with everybody. So the site walk, with the help of the CAES, helped us to live stream the site walk to all of the students. And since then, we've used the live streaming in quite a few situations. And I'll just explain a little bit about that. You need, of course, somebody to film while you're presenting, and you need to direct that person, direct the other person to do this. One thing you can't see very well is where you are, right? Of course, when you're physically in a place, you know how you got there, but this live streaming means you've got to be very clear about where you're going. And you can see that we prepare maps in advance wherever we can to do that. The technology, we're just using mobile phones, the gimbal to keep the phone steady, battery pack, you need to have the internet and microphone, which means the camera can be a long way from the speaker. We've been using Twitch is the live streaming platform, Zoom for communications, and WhatsApp as well to keep in touch. So you can see there I am presenting, and then we have person number 2 who's on Twitch with the camera filming, and then person number 3 is on Zoom getting comments and questions from the students. And then this can be monitored either on site by another person or in the office somewhere. And of course we have the students who are watching this. So here we are. I can go miles away from the phone and still be heard speaking, which is very useful. There's the gimbal stabilizing the camera. Students can text into Zoom or WhatsApp, and then the teaching assistant can ask me the questions directly, and so we can have a kind of a conversation as we're walking around. Yes, keeping an eye on it, and then this is what it looks like from the student's point of view. They can see and hear and engage and ask questions whenever they like. So the advantages of this, again, you get clear audio and visual accessibility. The synchronous interaction permits questions in real time, which is really helpful. and it's retrievable again because the Twitch records the whole session, so we can keep it. Again, something that has potential for use in future courses, and it's enhancing the student knowledge accessibility in case they cannot attend. So somebody, for some reason, you know, somebody doesn't have very good internet connection, or there's some problem with it, then the recording is extremely helpful, and they can go back to it, as we've heard before. The disadvantages of this in both cases are that people are physically missing out on the field trip experience, right? So going out and getting bitten by mosquitoes and struggling up a hillside is part of the experience of going out on a landscape trip, and people are missing this. There may be a risk, although we haven't confirmed this, of you know, people getting a bit too comfortable, you know, and getting reliant on not so reliant on their own efforts to find out plants. But we're addressing this by getting now the students to provide the content for the Facebook Workplace sites. It's more time consuming, you know, but never mind. And I just want to finish with a quick picture of how we're kind of bringing this into the dual mode. This is a completely different course on the subject of landscape representation, but you can see that we've got the computer sitting there on a kind of music type thing. The students who are not in Hong Kong or who are in quarantine can't make it on the screen. They can see what we're talking about. We can see them. And actually, with a small cohort like this of 10 to 15 students, you don't even need to have the microphone or other equipment. Just the laptop is sufficient. Everybody can hear one another. So I just wanted to finish with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gavin. Sorry for a bit of technical issues.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed, and it's amazing that you continue field trips, which is a big challenge for many teachers, and especially experiential learning, including field trips, is a distinctive component in Hong Kong youth curriculum, not only in architecture, but in many other subjects and disciplines. So there are several interesting questions. So
Okay.
one thing, maybe I pick up one question for you. So you've always talked about a variety of ways that you engage students. So a challenging question is, when we resume normal teaching and most students come back to campus, how would you leverage the inventions and innovations you've already done and make your future field trips more engaging, perhaps?
Yes, thank you. I think we're thinking about this, obviously, because the students are starting to come back now, and that I think that we will continue with these media. It's certainly in some ways because it's retrievable. I think this is what probably the key thing is. The information is retrievable, and you know, you can watch it again and again, right? So I think that's very helpful, and I think particularly in the demonstrations for how to do the assignments or how to approach the assignments, I think that's something that students would benefit from being able to watch several times over. So yes, I think that we will continue using this kind of technology. I mean, and people can ask questions, you know, and it was mentioned before that people can ask questions who might not normally feel like asking questions, which is one of the sort of surprising things and benefits that has come out of all of this. But I really do want to be able to show the students physically how a Batlan Pha smells. You know, I mean, the scent, you can't get the scent over the video. And that's something that you really need to do.
Thank you so much, Gavin. From what you said, I'm envisioning a totally new experience of experiential learning, combining technology, physical, walking, and all sorts of exciting things. So I'm aware of time, so I would like to thank you again and would like to invite the next speaker. So audiences, you are still very welcome to type questions. Sorry, we didn't pick every question to answer live, but we will try to answer it in question and answer. Okay, our next speaker is Dr. Rebecca Lam. Rebecca is from School of Chinese in Faculty of Arts. She was educated at the University of Hong Kong, has taught Chinese language in the Chinese Language Enhancement Program of Hong Kong U since 2010. Rebecca, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. And please give me a second.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Then I start my sharing. Hello, hello everyone. This is Rebecca Lam from the School of Chinese at the University of Hong Kong. This is my pleasure to share with you my online learning and teaching experience during this year. And today's topic is adopting edtech tools in practical Chinese schools, enhancing students' engagement in online lessons. For me, student engagement and students' participation are key factors to help students learn. But obviously, with the current and unexpected global situation, it has become more difficult to engage and maintain a highly participative class environment. So my in-class approaches had to be changed to match the circumstances. I was never very techy before. And in this semester, there are also 300 students in my course. So with so many students, it is really challenging to conduct interactive and engaging online lessons. So I did approach CITO for support and asked my colleagues, Dr. Richie Ho, for advice on e-learning. And you know what? I actually enjoy it. And I think my students do as well. Let me share with you my path to tech. At the end of August, I wanted to know more about my students and understand their challenges, preferences, and needs. So I conducted a pre-course survey online. The response rate was high. Over 85% students took the survey. Apart from answering the question we asked, some students expressed their worries and concerns about e-learning in the open-end comment section. This is a great opportunity for me to improve and prepare myself for the course according to my students' feedback. Moreover, collecting feedbacks helped me to build a bridge of communication with students, which apart from allowing me to understand them better, made them feel heard and seen. Some students really appreciate that they had the opportunity to voice their opinions. I also create pre-lesson interactive videos with 3 to 5 multiple choice questions embedded in the video by using Camtasia, which prolong the time students spend interacting with the materials. In my current course, we encourage students to learn not just in classroom, but also outside the classroom. We use a responsive and comprehensive platform, Yoko, for conducting out-of-classroom activities. Yoko has numerous functions which can help us enhance our students' engagement and facilitate a better learning environment. Yoko is also very helpful when assessing students' generic skills. There are many opportunities for students to learn more about Chinese in their daily life. We have asked them to pay attention to the environments around them and to try to look for some grammatical mistakes they come across with, or to find some typos or incorrect Chinese characters on the notice boards in the campus, road signs along the road, or in the menu in restaurants. They are asked to take pictures and captures of the mistake they find and post them onto the WhatsApp section in Yoko. Many students have actively participated in these activities. Students love this way of learning. Over 400 photos have been posted. Some examples shown in the photos are worth discussing. When students take photos and upload them on Yoko, they have to go through a process of analyzing and differentiating the words or sentences in order to discern which ones are wrong. This is their first learning process. The second learning process takes place when other students comment on the photos or ask questions about the Chinese usage in the photos. During this learning process, a lot of students are curious and take the initiative to check the dictionaries or credible sources for the correct answers. It's a compelling example of self-motivating learning. All the comments and answers inspire their peers to think or reflect on Chinese usage, thereby consolidating their knowledge in Chinese. Keeping a close connection with students is important in e-learning. We've used Youko as a platform for instant messaging. In order to register, all we need is an email address. Teachers and students do not need to disclose their phone numbers. Students can chat with each other informally, and teachers can also interact with students. Most students find this way more natural as it resembles their usual communication method. Also, Youko allows us to assess students' generic skills and let students know their generic competencies. Most of the employers today expect our students to be flexible, to show initiative, and to have the ability to undertake many different tasks. So generic skills are becoming more essential in job seeking. Apart from helping students excel in Chinese oral and writing skills, my course tries to embed generic skills into students with the support of the Teaching Development Grants. Firstly, we've used a validated and reliable instrument, the Generic Skills Perception Questionnaire Survey, which is already part of Youko. This tool allows students to assess the level of competence in generic skills, so students can have a better understanding of their strengths and weaknesses in this area. After that, we provide students with a set of assignments which we have designed to strengthen their generic skills. For example, one of the assignments is to write our self-reflection. By joining online discussion forums, doing group projects with classmates, and participating in clubs and societies, alongside other activities, students can develop their generic skills. This learning experience can be harnessed and translated back into the classroom through critical reflection. Learning outcomes and rubrics templates on the different generic skills are available in Youko, which makes it much easier for teachers and teaching assistants. Assessors and peers can simply click the boxes in Youko's rubrics and to give feedbacks to others. One very distinctive function in Youko is that the system will generate a rated chart showing different generic competencies for each student according to 3 different assessments, namely their own self-assessment, an assessment of them done by assessors, and a third one generated by their peers' feedback. Students can see and compare their results in order to gain a more well-rounded understanding of their own generic skills. Students love this function very much. During this time of COVID-19, we teaching staff are expected to adapt to online learning and teaching in a short period of time. However, whenever there is a crisis, there lies opportunities. In Chinese, the word crisis, 危機, is composed of 2 characters. One represents danger, and the other represents opportunity. COVID allows us to step out of our comfort zones, to explore new methodological approaches, and to try out various innovative tech tools to enhance quality online learning and teaching. In addition, the overall online teaching and learning experience develops our lifelong learning competencies and supports us in becoming lifelong learners, just like what we have emphasizing to our students. That's the end of my sharing. Thank you very much. Wish all of you happy teaching for the rest of the semester.
Thank you, Rebecca. You are very kind, and your ending, never stop learning, is so well said. That applies to all of us. Okay, I'm aware there are several questions to you about challenges, but I'm sorry, it's we are running a bit late, so maybe let's turn into the typing mode to answer questions rather than answering it live. So may I now introduce our third speaker, Mr. David Lee. He is a principal lecturer at Hong Kong U Business School, where where he works in the areas of ethics, fintech, law, and governance. He was recently awarded the University Grants Committee Teaching Award for Early Career Faculty, a prestigious award in Hong Kong. Okay, David, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Tracy. Thank you for the kind introduction. And it's a real pleasure to just share some of the thoughts that I have about teaching, particularly in this volatile environment, with all of you who have shared your time today. So Tracy gave a bit of background about the areas I teach in, and some of those courses, I teach a wide range of courses, which I think will be helpful in what I share today. I thought Gavin and Rebecca's sharing was really interesting and kind of introduced me to a number of things that I'm starting to think about a bit more about different types of technology that I'm going to try to apply in the classroom. But I think my sharing today will be a little bit more, I guess, generic in a sense about just core principles that I've found to have been helpful for me as I've kind of done online, hybrid, and obviously traditional teaching. So I've been fortunate in that I've taught a wide range of classes. So on one hand, I have a massive online open course I'm an instructor for, a co-instructor with. So we have over 11,000, almost 12,000 students in that class. And then, I have small undergrad sections of maybe 20 or 25 students. And then, I teach across executive education, MBA, master's. So it's a whole variety of different courses, which have allowed me to see perhaps what principles maybe are consistent, irrespective of kind of the student. So maybe I'll start though, with that background in mind. Maybe I want to start with a short vignette. And at the end of the Cold War, the US Army War College coined an acronym called VUCA, V-U-C-A, which stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And what they were doing was trying to find a model to describe what the post-Cold War would look like. Now, of course, like a lot of, kind of interesting sounding acronyms and things that come out of the military, some business person thought, hey, that sounds really cool. Let's apply that to business. And then all of a sudden you've heard this phrase for the last few decades, but in particular, in a post-COVID world, we hear it quite a bit, this idea of VUCA, or a volatile environment. I'm a firm believer that a lot of our teachers are leaders, and we are teaching in volatile environments. Obviously in Hong Kong, we've gone from protest to pandemic. I think other places are equally uncertain and volatile environments that I'm sure many of you are learning or teaching in. Now, when I give talks about this to companies and organizations about how you manage volatility and how you lead in volatility, one of the areas that I talk about quite a bit is something called a skill called leadership agility, which basically is about trying to manage this volatility through being very reflective, but also being true to purpose. And ultimately, I feel like teachers are leaders. And I think if you don't think of yourself as a leader, I think you should start thinking of yourself as a leader. I think our students demand some aspect of leadership from the teachers that they have. And that's not to say you need to do anything political. It's not that kind of leadership, but the idea of providing them purpose through the things that we're teaching them, the idea of providing some inspiration through the content of our courses. I think that kind of leadership is very much needed, particularly in these VUCA or volatile environments. So with that in mind, at the core of leadership agility, it requires some reflection, a lot of reflection, actually. And I'm still trying to work on this, but perhaps 3 or 4 things that I've reflected on that perhaps I can just leave as helpful concepts if you're not already doing them, or that you could use to enhance your teaching practice are the following. One, I think we all have to have the assumption that online teaching will actually require more effort, more energy, and more investment of time. Now, some of the students, the panelists shared, they were able to save time because they don't have to commute, they don't have to, go through traffic, etc., which is great. I think, unfortunately for teachers, we almost have to have the opposite perspective, that we have to invest more time to be effective teachers, either online or in a hybrid context. And that may require us to do things that we historically haven't done, or apply things we would normally do, but put it in an online context. So a very easy example, when I do online or hybrid teaching, I will not leave the classroom. I will not leave the Zoom session until all the students leave. And I'll tell them once we're done with our talking discussion, I'll say, hey, I'm happy to stick around in the Zoom for as long as people want to answer questions. And invariably, I'll have 5 or 10 students stick around, and we end up having a longer discussion. But that's a very simple thing. That's something I think normally most of us would do in a classroom, but oftentimes we don't tend to think about that in an online context. So that's a simple thing. Another simple thing is, so I tend to have high rates of discussion, and I'll talk about that as my next point, but I tend to have high rates of discussion even in online context. And one thing I do when people comment, because sometimes I can't always identify who's speaking, I'll stop them and say, hey, so what's your name? Remind me what your name is. So that's, again, something that I would normally do in a classroom. But sometimes we don't do that in an online context. This is a very simple thing, but immediately a student feels a connection. Then after 2 or 3 times of doing that, I can recognize the student's voice. And so again, we can develop some familiarity that way. So one, just again, the core assumption, number one, understanding that good online teaching or hybrid teaching requires more of an investment of time than normal classroom teaching. 2, I'm very cognizant of like our focus attention span. Most people, or what a lot of the research shows is that most people, attention span does not exceed 8 to 10 minutes at any given time. So I plan my sessions when I teach in 8 to 10 minute increments. Basically, every 8 to 10 minutes, I'm trying to do something different. So if we started off the course, the class that day talking about a case, we may be discussing, I'll move to a different question of the case within 8 to 10 minutes. And once we get through the case, I may do in class, kind of a small experiment in class. After that, in 8 to 10 minutes, we may do just a traditional lecture where I'm just talking and delivering some material for a few minutes. And then we'll switch to breakout rooms. And then we'll switch again to doing something online polling. So the word cloud that was mentioned earlier. And so just combining different activities to touch on core principles, but being very cognizant of the fact that most people, including our students, attention span is not unlimited. So I plan around this, like the psychology of understanding that people, the attention span is generally very limited, and you have to reset it. And so that's the second thing. And there's plenty of activities to be able to do that, especially via technology. The third thing, which may sound a bit odd, particularly in an online context. So in most business schools and law schools, and of course I teach in a business school, case method is used quite a bit. And as a result, cold calling is used quite a bit. So I tend to be a cold caller in a traditional classroom. I also cold call online. So if we do a Zoom class, I'll cold call people in the Zoom. And, occasionally you may just have silence because the person is not there, which is very interesting. But once you do that once or twice, students understand that there's a level of accountability that they could be called on. And usually when I do this at the beginning of a course, I'll tend to call on 1 or 2 students that I already know. Either I had interacted with them before in a previous class, or maybe I primed them beforehand and say, hey, Jenny, I'm going to go to you first with the question. And what that does is that creates, again, this expectation, but it breaks the ice for everybody else. Because once I cold call 2 or 3 people at the beginning of a semester for a class, then it's very easy for everybody else. Even if they don't know the answer to the question, they may have confusion about something. And what I found, I think what some of the principles that were shared is that once you have that expectation already, then more people tend to share, especially people who normally might not talk in class. So just doing a rough back of the envelope kind of calculation, I probably have any given class, I probably have a student comment on average every 2 minutes. So if I have a 100-minute class, like basically a 2-hour-long class, I have students generally commenting at least every 2, if not 3 minutes at most, or at least. So the selective use of cold calls creates opportunities to create expectations in class, but also opportunities to create engagement. And then maybe just the last thing I'll share, because I think Tracy's giving me a look that my time is coming to an end, is I think it's important to be aware of simple things like because we can't pick up on verbal cues, so we have to overemphasize other things. So that could be being more aware of lighting, being more aware of our voice, having better intonation, over-exaggerating certain gestures, using hand and facial gestures more than you normally would. I think those are pretty key. And then lastly, which a lot of people don't do, I find in online teaching is, I would say for a lot of the courses, even though I'm delivering it virtually, I stand, I don't sit. Even though there's nobody in the class, sometimes I will just set up in a classroom and stand in the classroom by myself while I deliver, because that allows me to have the energy and the perspective of being in the classroom. And I found that students have responded well to that. So those are just some of the principles I had, willing to invest more time, understand that it's gonna take more time, be aware of time and attention spans. So this idea of fixed attention spans. And then lastly, the selective use of cold calls. So thank you.
Thank you, David. I can see your approach is very dynamic, touching the human side, the cognitive side, and many different important aspects of learning. So in terms of time, could I invite you to go to Q&A? There are some questions waiting for you. So at this moment, could we invite Dr. Dirk Schneiders from Faculty of Engineering? Dirk graduated with a diploma degree from the Dortmund in 2004 and received master's and PhD in computer science from the University of Hong Kong. Currently, he is a lecturer at the Department of Computer Science, Hong Kong U. Dirk, please.
Yes, Tracy, thank you very much. Let me also try to share my screen.
Yeah.
Give me a moment, please.
Yeah, it's fine. Looking good.
Okay, great. So thank you very much. Now I'm going to share 5 strategies for online teaching. So no big deal, just 5 strategies. And they involve using technology for teaching. And I employ these in teaching a course here in the Faculty of Engineering at Hong Kong U. And the course I'm going to talk about is Computer Programming 1. So this is a course I'm currently teaching, but this picture that you see here is old. This is not from the current offering, obviously. This is a compulsory course. A lot of students, we got 500 students there. And pre-COVID, what did we do? Well, we invite them to come to the classroom and we lectured them for 2 hours in the Grand Hall once a week. Now, as we really know, the real learning actually takes place in the tutorials, right? So of course, we also have that. We have 2 hours of tutorials every week as well. And students have the opportunity to do hands-on learning there, right? So we consider this so important, it's actually compulsory for our students to attend the tutorials, at least in the past. That's what we did, right? Now, during the tutorials, students are working in groups and they are presenting their results, their solutions to the challenges that we give them in groups in front of a smaller tutorial subclass. And this really provides excellent opportunities, right? Think about it. Students are communicating with each other, right? They're talking, they're trying to find solutions. I will also be able to track their progress. I can figure out if they really understand what I've taught them earlier. So this was really important. But how about now? The COVID-19 version, right? Computer Programming 1, 500 students. We're doing everything online. So there's no face-to-face for this particular class. All learning activities are online. So on the following couple of slides, I'm going to talk a little bit about these strategies that I mentioned earlier, the 5 strategies that we employ. And the first one, and this one I think is really important, is creating an engaging and vibrant discussion forum, an online discussion forum, where students are eager to participate and actively post questions. Not only that, maybe they will even answer questions by other students. So this will really enforce, effective communication, and it's peer teaching, right? Students answering each other's questions. And this is especially important in larger classes, in particular when you only have the online, as we have right now. Now, looking at the statistics for the current offering, it's quite vibrant. So if you look at the top here, this is the analytics that we've generated. There are a total of 832 questions as of this morning, with more than 1,000 answers and an additional 1,000 comments. So we have roughly 3,000 posts already in this discussion forum. And this course We started it early September, so this is roughly 1 month. So it's quite active. So what's our secret? How come students are so eager to participate here? Also, I want to point out this one. I've anonymized some of the names here of students. The top answerers, number 1, okay, this student right here, more than 100 answers, so it's actually a student. It's not one of our staff, as you see these yellow tags that you see there behind the name. That means it's a staff. And the number 1 answer is, in fact, a student. So it's pretty good. So what's our secret? Why do our students actively participate in the discussion forum? And I believe one of the key points is that we allow students to post anonymously. They are hiding their name from others, but just students. We can still see their name because, in fact, we reward them for active participation. Also, just as it's the case with other social media, you are able to like a post from others. You can like your own post as well, I suppose, which I did here, as you can see. That's why this has a red heart. So I liked my own post. And you can also see how many views does your post have. Okay, so this maybe encourages you to post more next time. For us, what's also important, because this is an engineering course where you have to do programming, you can actually put code right in the forum, and you can run the code, and you can actually see it run right in the forum post. So this is really useful sometimes for our student to do that. Now, when other students answer a question, staff have the ability to click on this tick right here, this yellow tick that you see there. That means, okay, I accept this answer as correct. So we don't have to answer every single question if it has already been answered by another student. And also other students can see if that particular answer is correct. Of course, you can also decline and lock threads and so on. So it's really convenient. And finally, I actually took this screenshot just this afternoon while I was preparing my slides. You can always tell how many users are online at the moment. So for example, I was surprised to actually see there were 145 students online, but then I realized that the assignment deadline is coming up tomorrow. So probably students are very busy working on the assignment. Strategy number 1, okay. Now, how about number 2? This is really important as well. Provide feedback. And we provide instant automatic feedback to most of the tasks that we give students. So our tasks are of this form where you have a programming problem and you have to type the code to solve the task. Now here, what you can do, you can just type your code on the right-hand side in this window, and then you can check if it's correct by clicking on the mark button, and you will directly get feedback. We have a number of test cases, and we compare what is expected versus what you have right now, and we tell students what the difference is. So this can be really helpful, and this can motivate students. If they pass test cases, they know, okay, I can move on to the next task. Now, this also allows us to track the learning progress very accurately of our students. So we're actually using analytics. Okay, so for example, I have a practice assignment here, and if I click on the analytics here, I will be able to see how many students, in terms of percent in the overall class, have completed a certain task, how many have attempted it, how many have opened it at least once, and how many have not opened it at all. Right? So this can actually tell me what's the current progress in the class. So this goes further. You can actually click on some of the individual submissions, and you can go into the details to see when exactly have students passed the test cases. Or if they haven't, you can actually click and learn more about why they haven't passed the test cases. And this can be done per subclass. So we have subclasses of just 15 students, and we have an individual student TA who is responsible for that particular subclass. And that student TA should go, we instruct them to go once a day and see what's the current progress and identify any potential problems and contact the students and ask them, what's wrong? Can I help you? Do you need help in completing these tasks? The fourth strategy is to provide individual feedback. Now, the autograder is nice. because it tells us what's the current progress in the class. It helps students, but sometimes you can't really pass the test case and you don't know why, and you keep trying. And we identify these cases automatically. We receive emails, and we will then look at the particular case. We look into it by clicking, in fact, on these submissions, and then we click on this feedback button there, and then we can actually provide students with individual feedback for each line of code that we have there. So this is very important as well. And goes hand in hand with the automatic rating. And finally, strategy number 5. This one is super important. We really want our online tutorials that we currently do on Zoom to be, as effective as possible. And collaboration is a big part of this, because students are discussing, they're devising solutions together. They're discussing which solution is better, and then eventually they also reflect on their learning. They actually present their solution to others. And our tool actually allows this. So you can click on share, you can invite others to your code so that you can collaboratively work on the same solution, maybe in different files, maybe in the same file. And then you can use this tool to collaborate together and come up with solutions to certain problems. Yeah, so these are the 5 strategies that I would like to share with you. So in summary, I've put them here again. So create an engaging and vibrant discussion forum, provide automatic instant feedback, track the learning progress, provide early and frequent individual feedback, and enable collaboration of students. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dak. It's not difficult to tell that you are from computer program. Your slides have fully demonstrated that, and your 4 or 5 strategies are simple but very powerful. Again, could I invite you to go to Q&A to see if there are any questions waiting for you? Without further ado, I think, but do let me thank all the 4 speakers from Hong Kong U sharing with us your wonderful teaching experience during very challenging times. And